leaned her head back, and drifted away. No warning, no cry, no last word, just silence. The days after her passing felt like walking through fog. The villagers came with baskets of yam and bowls of soup, saying kind things, but Adjoa couldn't hear them. Her ears were filled with memory, her grandmother's laugh, the rustle of her wrapper, the way her hands moved when she brewed tea. She cleaned the room, washed the cloths, buried her grief in motion, until the night she found the lamp again, tucked in a wooden box under the bed, wrapped in red fabric, waiting. She held it to her chest, and without thinking, she stepped out of the house barefoot, the lamp in hand, and walked straight toward the forest. The villagers always warned their children, never go into bosom from at night, but grief has a way of making you deaf to fear. Adjoa crossed the boundary of the forest. The moment she did, everything changed. The wind stopped, the sound of crickets vanished, even the moonlight dimmed, swallowed by leaves as wide as blankets. She struck a match and lit the lamp. Instead of the warm yellow she expected, a cool blue flame leapt to life. It didn't flicker, it pulsed, a steady heartbeat of light. Then the lamp tugged. It didn't hover, it didn't drag. It pulled, gently, but with purpose. As though someone invisible held its chain and beckoned, Adjoa followed. The path the lamp carved out was strange. It bent through vines and streams, across fallen logs and fields of silent white flowers that closed as she passed. The forest around her didn't feel dead. It felt awake, watching, listening, and still no fear, only quiet. Eventually the forest opened into a clearing, and there, bathed in the blue glow, stood an enormous tree, wider than a house, older than anything she had ever seen. Its bark twisted in curves and swirls, and its base was covered in carved names and signs. Ama 1894, Essie 1920, Efua 1951, hundreds of names. The lamp flared. A shallow pool at the base of the tree began to ripple. Adjoa stepped forward and looked inside. What she saw wasn't her face. It was Mame Efua, younger, laughing, standing in this very same clearing, her lamp glowing blue just like Adjoa's. She twirled, danced, wrote her name on the tree, and placed something into the water, a dried white flower. And then, just as suddenly, the vision shifted. Adjoa saw other women, other girls, all with lamps, all entering the forest carrying sorrow and leaving with peace. Some wept, some smiled, all left their names behind. The voice in her chest returned, not a whisper, not a command, but a truth. Open quote, "You are not the first. You are not alone. Grief does not end, but it transforms. Let this place carry what you cannot." Close quote. Adjoa knelt. She cried, not loud, not sharp, softly, with release, the way clouds cry when they're finally too heavy. Then, with fingers trembling but sure, she carved her name beside her grandmother's, Adjoa Efua Korkor, 2025. The lamp flickered, hummed, and slowly dimmed, its job complete. She sat there until the morning birds stirred. The forest, now familiar, seemed to breathe with her. Alive. Safe. When Adjoa returned to the village, she didn't tell anyone where she had been. She simply placed the lamp on her windowsill. It never lit again, but its blue warmth never fully left her skin. Years later, when a neighbor lost her child, Adjoa walked silently to her door, pressed the brass lamp into her palm, and whispered, "When your heart is too full to hold, follow the light." The woman never asked questions, and when she returned 2 days later, her eyes were different, softer, brighter. She didn't speak of what she saw, only that she understood now. Over time, more women held the lamp. More names were carved into the tree. And though the brass wore thin and the engravings faded, the forest never stopped opening for the broken-hearted. It welcomed them, listened, and gave them space to begin again. Somewhere in the quiet of the trees, a new name waits to be written, and the lamp, though still, is never truly out. Kofi the Musician, From the Streets of Jamestown to the Grammy Stage. Chapter 1, Jamestown Symphony. In the heart of Accra, in a weathered fishing community called Jamestown, music was more than background noise. It was survival. Fishmongers sang as they gutted their morning catch, taxi drivers blared highlife tunes, and street kids like Kofi Odampton found solace in the rhythm of everyday life. Kofi wasn't born into riches. He wasn't even born into comfort. His father was a fisherman lost at sea, and his mother sold kenki by the roadside to make ends meet. But Kofi had something money couldn't buy. A voice that could stop traffic. He discovered his gift at age 6 when, During evening church service, the choir director heard him humming along in the back pew and handed him the microphone. That night, the entire chapel fell into a hush as little Kofi sang a hymn with the soul of an old man. From that day, the streets knew him as Kofi the Nightingale. Chapter 2. Beats in the Dust. By age 11, Kofi was crafting drums out of old paint buckets and rusted tins, building rhythms beneath the mango tree outside his house. He couldn't afford studio time, so he recorded vocals into a secondhand smartphone he got from a local NGO program. He sang about real things: loss, love, hunger, dreams. His voice echoed across alleyways and marketplaces. Vendors would pause their haggling just to listen. Every Saturday, Kofi ran errands for a neighborhood sound engineer named Uncle Ebo, who operated a small recording studio from a container. In exchange, Uncle Ebo let him hang around and learn. Music isn't just sound, Ebo would say. It's a weapon. It cuts through pain. Use it wisely. Kofi listened. Chapter 3. YouTube and a Miracle. At age 16, with no formal training and barely any equipment, Kofi wrote a song called Moko Sane, a Twi phrase that loosely meant they don't know. It was about how people judged without understanding struggle. He uploaded a simple video of him singing it with his bucket drums. It went viral. Within a week, bloggers across Ghana shared it. Then Nigeria picked it up. Then Black diaspora communities in the UK and US, TikTok users began remixing it. Overnight, Kofi became the face of raw talent. CNN Africa called him the boy with dusty feet and a diamond voice. Labels started reaching out, but Kofi was cautious. He had seen friends get chewed up and spit out by the industry. He turned to his mother, who still sold kenki, for guidance. Don't follow the biggest hand, she told him. Follow the one that wants to help you grow. So he signed with a Ghanaian-American label, Truth Be Told Records, run by a former DJ from the Bronx who believed in nurturing African roots. Chapter 4. America Bound. At 17, Kofi stepped onto a plane for the first time, bound for Atlanta. He cried looking out the window. Not from fear, but from disbelief. The boy from Jamestown was now being flown across the ocean because of a song born from pain. In Atlanta, he trained hard: voice, movement, branding, production, but he never let go of who he was. He insisted every performance include a piece of Ghanaian culture, an Iwe chant, a kente scarf, or his signature barefoot style. His debut EP, Stories from the Coast, charted globally. The standout track, My Mother's Song, was a tearjerker. He sang it in Fante and English, honoring the woman who sold kenki to send him to school. He was nominated for several awards, but what no one expected came one sunny Thursday. Chapter 5. Grammy Stage. When Kofi got the email, he read it thrice before reacting. He had been chosen to perform live at the Grammy Awards under the category Best Global Music Performance. As he stood backstage on the night of the performance, he thought of Jamestown. He thought of his dusty drums, Uncle Ebo's container studio, and his mother's cracked hands. He thought of every time he had to sing to drown out hunger. The host called his name. He stepped out. The crowd roared. Kofi stood alone in a simple outfit, barefoot, a kente sash over a black shirt, and a single spotlight above him. He began with the gentle hum of Moko Sane, then transitioned into a brand new unreleased song, From Clay to Gold, a blend of Afrobeats, soul, and spoken word.